as many as 4 rivers winding their way through its valleys, Himachal Pradesh has always been blessed with abundant water resources. The Beas, Satluj, Yamuna and Ravi rivers have nurtured communities, supported agriculture and enriched the state's mountain ecosystem. But the relationship between Himachal Pradesh and its rivers is changing.
तारीख को लगभग 7:30-8 बजे के करीब जो है दरिया आ गया, पानी जो है वो इस लेवल तक आ गया। फिर देखते देखते हमें टाइम भी नहीं मिला सामान निकालने का और पानी जो है यानी कि इस लेवल तक आ चुका था। ये जो दीवार है यहाँ पर, ये वाली दीवार है, ये वाली सारी गिर गई। यहाँ हमारी दीवार थी एक यहाँ तक, वो गिर गई।
As part of the Mandi Conservation and Development Committee, Lalit Sharma helps facilitate fundraising around issues related to health, education, women empowerment and the environment. Today he is tasked with going door to door to assess the damage from the recent floods that tore through the mountain state this monsoon.
अभी जो ये पीछे ब्यास नदी है हमारे पीछे, ये ब्यास नदी का बरसात का एक आम स्वरूप है। जो अभी हम देख रहे हैं ये आम स्वरूप है। 9 और 10 जुलाई को ब्यास ने इतना भयंकर विकराल रूप लिया कि ये जो पीछे आप देख रहे हैं सामने, इन मकानों के मतलब 2-2 मंजिल तक मतलब पानी में ये डूब गई थी।
On the 9th of July 2023, the floodgates of the Pande Dam on the Beas in Mandi district had been opened by the authorities. What followed was a 9-foot wall of water that breached the security wall and left behind a trail of destruction. Breaking a 50-year record, 60 hours of relentless rains left the state of Himachal Pradesh battered. Lalit's house on the banks of the Beas was severely damaged.
मेरे को 30 साल रहते हुए हो गए, तो यहाँ तक कभी नहीं आया। ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इधर नीचे तक आ जाता था। ये सीवरेज टोटली डैमेज हो गया है ना। ये सेप्टिक टैंक था, तो ये उठा के साइड में तक दिया।
Official records tell us that more than 700 houses and 200 shops have been decimated by this year's deluge. Another 7,000 plus homes have suffered partial damage.
हमने तो कोई एक कपड़ा तक नहीं, एक सुई तक नहीं घर से निकाली, सब कुछ बह गया हमारा।
We caught up with Mansi Asher, an environmental activist based in Himachal, to find out what was going on in the state.
मतलब बारिश होती थी लेकिन पानी नहीं था इतना आता मैम, पानी तो अभी आया है।
If you look at the 3 main sectors, the primary, secondary and tertiary sectors of the economy, the primary being agriculture, secondary being manufacturing and then tertiary being infrastructure, most of the growth is now focusing on infrastructure building. So it's also something that Vikas looks like. It's basically Vikas has become infrastructure in the mountains. And also electricity generation is also a part of that. So the dam building that we see is also a part of this model. So the 4-laning highways, if I have to talk about that, you have the Kalka Shimla 4-laning, then you have the Kiratpur Manali 4-lane, and now you have the Pathankot Mandi 4-lane which is being built. And these are substantial projects in terms of the widening, the amount of tunneling involved, because that involves a lot of underground excavation, and the amount of deforestation.
Between July 7th and 13th, the town of Mandi, where Lalit lives, witnessed at least 3 major cloud bursts within a span of 7 days. Mansi explains how these extreme weather conditions, a rising trend worldwide, is intensifying the situation, especially in mountainous terrains.
Because through the year you're constructing in the mountain, and then in the monsoons you see now there's an increasing trend. The first heavy rain that comes will bring things down. And of course, there was an excess rainfall in this case. But if you look at the whole of July, it was like some 70% excess. If you look at only the 48 hours, that it was about 290% excess in the upper Bias Valley, in Kulu. There have been floods which have had 3000% excess rainfall also. I'm not saying that these extreme weather events are not happening. What I'm saying is that the kind of damage that they do is also, compounded by what has happened in terms of land use change in that particular valley.
Himachal Pradesh is heavily dependent on its natural resources for its development goals, which are focused on tourism, expansion of hydropower projects, and cement plants. This has led to exploitation of its forests and rivers, bringing about changes in its land use patterns and riverine ecosystems. Mansi brings attention to the fact that the state already has permission to fell over 80,000 trees for the construction of 4-lane highways.
Felling deforestation is directly again related in the mountains related to erosion, and such massive scale deforestation is contributing to the landslides and slope destabilization in general. So if you look at the the quantum of muck that gets generated when a project like this of this size and magnitude gets built, and especially in a valley like Bias, it's going to wreak havoc, because if you look at what people are saying this time is that there was a lot of silt in the water, and that silt laden or high sediment load is very devastating for downstream regions.
हमारे छत से 10 फुट ऊपर पानी था, उसके बाद ये रेत वगैरह सारा कुछ अंदर जितना भी सामान था पूरा खराब हो गया और अंदर सिल्ट बैठ गई सारी, 5.5-6 फुट सिल्ट जो है कमरे के बीच में हो गई.
Mandi resident Daguram Saini, like Lalit, also lives on the banks of the Bias. When the waters started gushing through his neighborhood, he had to dig a hole to get rid of the silt that had entered his home.
ये जितनी भी रेत निकली है सारी हमने अपने कमरे से निकाली है.
टॉयलेट की रेत यहाँ तक थी. अब आप अंदाजा लगा लो कि कमरों में इसी बराबर की लेवल में सारा कुछ,
और कमरे के बीच में यहाँ तक थी. उसके बाद यहाँ से दीवार को हमने सुराख डाला, तब जाकर के यहाँ से पानी और रेत को निकाला, और उसके बाद ये ग्रिल को निकाला हमने. ग्रिल दरवाज़ा बंद था, यहाँ से दरवाज़ा खोलने के लिए था क्योंकि अंदर से बंद हो चुका था दरवाज़ा, और इसको निकाला हमने. उसके बाद इसको पूरे मड को जितना भी रेत था उसको बाहर निकाला हमने खिड़की के रास्ते.
The village of Thunag, 60 kilometers from Mandi, has a population of not more than 4,000. According to reports in the local community, the devastation in these parts was propelled by the ongoing work for road construction. Hundreds of trees that had been cut to make way for roads and dumped into a local stream came hurtling down along with the gushing waters.
एक बेडरूम बनाया था, ये हमने बाथरूम बनाया था इधर, ये हमारी किचन थी.
The logs entered Kaluram's home, situated downstream, leaving it destroyed.
हमारे बुजुर्ग रहते थे वो ऐसे, जहाँ हमारा पुराना घर है ऊपर ना, तो वो वैसे वहाँ तक रोड नहीं थी, वहाँ तक कोई नुकसान नहीं होता. जैसे हमने वहाँ के लिए रोड निकाल दी तो ऐसे ही नुकसान होता है. रोड से हमेशा नुकसान नहीं होता है. जैसे पहाड़ों को काटना, रोड यहाँ जो मान लो हर घर के लिए रोड जा रही है, तो इसकी वजह से नुकसान है. ऐसा हो सकता है कि एक गांव, जैसे पूरा गांव है, उसके लिए एक रोड चाहिए, तो यहाँ एक गांव के लिए 2-3 सड़कें निकाल रहे हैं, तो इसकी वजह से स्लाइडिंग हो रही है.
For locals whose houses had been partially damaged, the state government has offered financial assistance of 1 lakh rupees.
वो कहाँ हमारे को 1-1 लाख रुपए दे, यहाँ देखो यहाँ 27 लाख हमने खर्च कर दिए, और वो कौन देगा? हमारे भी हमने पूरी पैसे लगा दिए इसमें, मान लो पूरे अपने हम हमारे नाम कोई नौकरी वाले हैं, एम्प्लॉयज है ही नहीं है ना, एक छोटा भाई है मेरा वो है लगा हुआ है, पर हम 2 भाई है, हम लगे नहीं, 3 भाई का है हमारा है। तो ये देखो कितना हमने 3 भाई ने किए थे पैसे इकट्ठा कि हमने कहा चलो घर बना ले, ये जगह है हमारी, तो अब ये चले गई है।
This year's floods have claimed more than 100 lives and rendered many more homeless and landless in a region predicted to be one of the hardest hit by climate change. The monetary loss incurred by the state is estimated at 10,000 crores. Since the 7th of July, rescue and relief efforts have been airdropping rations, medicines and essential supplies, evacuating homes from high-risk areas and providing shelters to those whose homes have been washed away. Today, Himachal Pradesh's hydroelectricity resources make up 25% of the national potential. With a little more than 800 dams, the state generates more than 10,000 megawatts of hydroelectric power. It is now planning to increase this capacity to 24,000 from the major river basins of the Sutlej, Ravi and Beas rivers. A plan that is getting ecologists even more worried.
When you have a cascade of dams, you have affected the flow of the river, you've affected your sense of flooding of a river, because there is artificial flooding that happens if there is a sudden release of the waters. There is also a change in the sediment structure. The whole riverine ecology basically changes. So that causes problems downstream.
Mansi further expresses her concern over the dilution of the environmental impact assessment, which exempts 40 types of projects from prior environmental clearance, including roads, railways or irrigation projects, as a blow to the government.
If you have an environment impact assessment notification at the central level under the Environment Protection Act, which is applicable to all projects, then to remove the regulation for linear projects, whether it's railway or it's a highway or it's a transmission line, to exempt them from the environment impact assessment notification, which was done in 2013. This is problematic. The geology is not like a plains area, and therefore the planning will have to keep in mind, and there's again plenty of research on that. It requires very localized planning, because one valley may be or sub-valley may be different from the other. Whether it is, all climate and biophysical factors will vary, even though there may be some similarities.
For the people of the valley who have already lost their homes and a sense of security, fear looms of a disaster striking again.
जो हमारे आकलन के मुताबिक अगर इन्होंने पूर्व तैयारी जो इनको करनी चाहिए थी, क्योंकि मौसम विभाग का अलर्ट था, सभी डीसीज को मतलब ये पहले से निर्देश किया हुआ था कि मतलब इस तरह का त्रासदी या इस तरह का बहुत बड़ा बारिश होने का संभावना है, परंतु उन्होंने कोई पूर्व तैयारी नहीं की। किसी तरह का जो डैम का प्रबंधन है और जो हमारा प्रशासनिक तंत्र है, उनके बीच में किसी तरह का आपस का कोई तालमेल नहीं था कि क्या मतलब अगर वो पहले से मतलब अपना वो जो सिल्ट उनके डैम में भरा है उसको पहले से खाली कर देते या फ्रिक्वेंट पानी को छोड़ देते तो एकदम से पानी का लेवल ऊपर नहीं उठ रहा था।
Even while local communities were coming to grips with the devastation of the July floods, they were hit by another spate in August. An official statement was not available from the government at the time of reporting. However, other media reports quoted the Chief Minister in August. The state had reportedly roped in institutions like the Geological Survey of India, IIT Mandi and NIT Hamirpur to investigate the reasons behind the landslides. It has also reportedly taken steps to begin restricting construction along rivers, check for illegal buildings and regulate mining. Whether these efforts will come to fruition, only time will tell. Thanks for watching Eco India. If you like the story, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Scroll.in on YouTube.